Well, good morning, friends. How are you? It's Sunday morning, September 15th. It is 10:02 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time. It is 1:02 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. The Ducks defeated the Beavers last night, or yesterday afternoon, I'm sorry, in the first non-Pac 12, first non-Pacific Coast Conference game in well over 100 years of football matchups between Oregon and Oregon State. For the first time, they were in different conferences. That's interesting. What's going on with our world? Why is it being fractionalized based upon monetary value when money is, in fact, the root of all evil? Well, that's a really good question to start with. Something else good to start with is some music so that we can let people join this unannounced live. And hey, let your friends and family and neighbors and enemies and collaborators know that we're going to be talking about some important stuff. We're going to be talking about human survival, what it is today, and how you do it, and why what's going on right now is not going to work for you for very much longer. This is the end of DoorDash, Uber, and the global gig economy. All right, that's a good start. Let's get another one in there before we get started. Welcome, friends. Well, good morning, friends. Good morning. This is the end of DoorDash, Uber, and gig economy fraud. The end. A year ago, it was the beginning of the end, but now it's the end. It's the end. Why is it the end? How do we know it's the end? Well, I'm going to tell you. That's my job that I hired myself for without pay to tell you why it is in fact the end of DoorDash and gig economy fraud. Here's the thumbnail that I made for you today. Let's see here if we can make. Well, you can see it good enough. Anywho, uh, let's see. Zoom. There's a few things on this thumbnail I want to tell you about. Okay, one of them is a quote. You see a picture of a train over there coming at us. That's a picture I took last week as I was walking, and a train came around the corner. And that's a great analogy for what's happening around the corner straight at us. And we better not be standing on those tracks, friends. We best not be standing on those tracks, because if we do, we're going to get creamed. We're just going to get fucking creamed by this train. And I don't want to see you or me get creamed by the train. What does getting creamed by the train look like? Well, the Stardashians, who I don't believe are in here yet, but I tagged them and I pop in on them sometimes daily. Yesterday I did. Posted a community post last night. You see over here, I clipped a little piece of it. Uh, Something to the effect of, as far as what is going on with Chris, parentheses, this person name is Chris, and this is from the Stardashians community post. His mother passed away a few months ago, period. He had the burden of paying for her burial costs, etc., and fell behind in his own expenses. He was gigging full time and was involved in a bad accident, which resulted in him losing his mode of transportation, his income, and his driver's license. He is working on getting a non gig work job close to home, the American dream, if you will. That's my addition. But everything takes time, and he is seriously struggling right now and needs some help. Who does that sound like besides all of us? Who does that sound like besides Brian C. of DoorDash Sucks and every single gig worker, app slave, including myself, because it's the path to hell? The empire does not pay for burying your mom, and you don't make enough as an app slave to bury your own mom. The empire and the gig economy, corporate cabal, and fraud also is not a job that you can do full time. It is a task by task, dangerous thing that they get you to do because they don't want to do it. There's not a corporation alive that wants either of these two things. No corporation alive wants any employees, which are called human beings, which are a pain in the fucking ass. That's you, that's me. We're a pain in the ass because we're living, breathing beings in the present moment that require care and feeding of many different varieties. And number two, they don't want a fleet of fucking cars that's going to drive around playing bumper cars all over the universe, because that costs a whole lot of money, takes a whole lot of maintenance. It's a whole lot of lawsuits. It's a whole lot of crashes and death and mayhem, because that's what happens when you drive around in the world delivering packages. It's one of the most dangerous tasks anybody does, is transportation for supply chain goods and services. And so what did they sucker app slaves into, or trap app slaves into, after they suckered them in? Well, they trapped them into the most dangerous job, where they're going to destroy their assets. And it's like pulling the lever on a one-armed bandit in Vegas. You're just gambling, you're gambling, gambling. But guess what? If you pull the lever long enough, you're going to lose. You're going to lose, because it's a rigged game. It's a rigged game that you can't win, and they're going to destroy your life, because tragedies are going to happen. Family members, hopefully at the end of a very long, healthy, happy life, family members will pass away. Things will happen. And when we're all in day-to-day poverty as an app slave in the gig economy, global corporate cabal, and fraud, which keeps us down economically, mentally, psychologically, socially. When we're at the bottom of this heap in the app slave, anything that goes wrong can and will fucking kill you dead. It's going to take your life. If it doesn't take your life just by the car crash and the mayhem itself, it'll take your life from the stress. Because the worst thing about poverty, and I can tell you this as somebody who's lived in poverty, the worst thing about poverty is that it's not the things that you're deprived of yourself. It's not that I can't afford an Armani suit or a fancy car. Yeah, Simple Toaster, good to see you, buddy. You're going to want to stick around in here and see what's going on while you're going back out there. So this is not something that you can just glide through. It's going to catch you. It's going to get you. And it's just a matter of time before it does. And when it does, it's real bad. So this is the train that's coming at you, is this rigged game of app slavery. And if you think you see other dangers, that may be true, but those are nothing compared to the train that's heading straight at you, which is the fact that being an app slave, the global gig economy fraud and corporate cabal is at the end. This is the end. And here's the problem. Here's the psychological problem that comes from cognitive biases, and it comes from the whole idea of app slavery, which is to put us to sleep, which is to make us unaware of our present moment and the reality of our present moment by putting us in a game in which we're a non-thinking, non-acting entity in an illusion, right? Everything that you're doing as an app slave is an illusion that's being provided to you through this slave phone, through app slavery, right? Everything that you're getting is an illusion that's being provided to you so that you will behave the way corporate fascist empires want you to behave. You will act in ways that are not in your best interest. You will use your resources and your very life force, your labor, your very life force, your attention, your present moment. You will use all of it for their benefit, not for yours, right? No company in the world wants to be in the business of physical package delivery because it's an awful, unprofitable business. It's the physical logistics of our world are not created for exponential corporate growth. They're not created for unlimited greed and fraud, which is what corporations and oligarchs and governments demand. They demand that this system continues to pay them the lion's share, the empire's share, the king's share of every single thing that we do. That's called cloud capital. So when an artist like Jesse Jett or Ryan Black or any other artist puts out great music and puts it on the internet, cloud capitalists, Spotify and Amazon and Google and everyone else, they steal it all. They steal all of that equity that these artists put into their work. They steal it all, and the artists get just fractionalized little pennies for their art. Well, Jeff Bezos and Spotify and Joe Rogan and everybody that's benefiting from this empire just gets richer and richer and fatter and fatter and fatter. So it never goes the other direction because it's a rigged system. A lot of you have seen the last couple weeks I've been working with and talking to the director or the producer of a great 5-part documentary series called The Con, whose name is Patrick Lovell. And so what Patrick shows in The Con is that this is a rigged game. $71 trillion of fraud documented in The Con of government and housing and corporate and finance people making themselves rich while they steal your land and your houses, not just through the machinations of global finance, but through just actual theft, through actual fraud, through faking signatures and faking approvals and refusing to adhere to the rules of housing. They don't adhere to the rules of our physical world that keep us housed and in a vehicle and everything else. They're playing a whole different game with assets. To them, they're assets. To us, it's our mom and our car and our dog and our house. To them, it's just a pool of assets, and we're just little widgets for them to use. But the problem is, if you're just a little widget for them to use, they're not going to take you into account when they're making all the tough decisions. And all the tough decisions are designed for one thing: to increase shareholder value. You're not a shareholder, right? Really, no humans are shareholders anymore. Now the shareholders are the corporations themselves and the oligarchs who have wealth immunity to control them. This is completely and totally out of our physical human control. And that's why we are playing their game. And that's why they're beating the pants off us as slaves in their game, because they have us mentally trapped in their game. So one of the things that we talked about multiple times is this short story called "The Ones Who Walked Away from Omelas," Ursula Le Guin, written in 1973. And as I noted before, this word Omelas right there, that's Salem, Salem O spelled backwards. That's where I was born. So it's a very poignant story for me, but it's more poignant because of what's in it. And what's in it is this: the place they go towards is a place even less imaginable to most of us than the city of happiness. End quote. Omelas, Ursula Le Guin. What is the city of happiness? The city of happiness is the illusion that we live under today. The city of happiness is the illusion that we live under today with American exceptionalism. And so the challenge with American exceptionalism is all a lie. It's not American exceptionalism. It's American dollar hegemony. It's the American military industrial complex. I mean, we do have our ways of controlling the world, but it's not through exceptionalism. It's not through being wonderful and virtuous and moral and righteous. It's through murder and theft and organized crime. That really sucks when you're a member of a society whose kakistocracy, that's a government of the worst people, that's the worst people ruling us. It's called a kakistocracy, right? When you're ruled by a kakistocracy, you're going to have a miserable life of austerity and deprivation, because that's how they keep you under control. That's how they keep you under control. And so that the story that Ursula Le Guin is telling you about all this known pain and suffering, the story that Patrick Lovell has been telling you about this pain and suffering, this documented, proven pain and suffering, and then the story that my friends last night over here, the Stardashians, right here in yellow, told you about Chris, who is overwhelmed in the pain and suffering of grief of losing his mother, of losing his vehicle and his ability to drive, of losing his ability to sustain his life and stay housed. This is what happens to every one of us, and this is hell on earth. And again, it's not just the deprivation of being a person in poverty, because lots of us maybe have spent a good portion of our life in poverty. It's the deprivation of being able to take care of those we love. It's a deprivation of being able to take care of our dying mom. It's a deprivation of Brian being able to take care of his beloved cat, 27 years old. Bye-bye, Brian's cat just passed away. Rest in peace, bye-bye. A beautiful kitty and a beautiful soul that was part of Brian's life. And Brian's probably crying right now. And I cried with Brian when we were talking about his kitty. Okay, 27 years old, our buddy, bye-bye. And look, here's my buddy. That's Odin right there. Odin's 19 years old, okay? Luckily, I don't pay for Odin's vet bills, or I'd be even more stressed out than I am, because I don't have the ability to pay for anybody's vet bills, okay? And so the pain of poverty, the pain of what Chris is going through, and what the Stardashians know, and what Brian knows, and what I know, and what you know, the pain of poverty is that we can't take care of the loved ones and our families and our dying parents and our dying pets and our dying ourselves, because we are the ones doing the fucking dying. We're always the ones doing the fucking dying. That's the way empires work. It's not the kings and the oligarchs that go onto the battlefield and do the dying. That's us. That's our fucking job. We're the cannon fodder. We were born cannon fodder. We'll always be cannon fodder. And so, we can raise money for each other as our parents die and our lives fall apart, and Brian can't drive and has no car anymore. And this guy, Chris, up here, who I don't even know, uh, uh, doesn't have a car, can't drive, and don't have a mom anymore. And me, I got a car parked outside my house, don't have no insurance on it. I can't drive it. Still runs, luckily. It's kind of an asset, if you will, I guess. It's probably more of a liability if I can't drive it, isn't it? Because somebody might steal it or break its window or whatever else. I don't have the money to fix that either. Right? So what is app slavery? Why is this the end of DoorDash and Uber and gig economy fraud? Well, our friend Jeff at Mike Drop Barbecue tells us every day. It's because they're taking all the money. That's why Jeff of Mike Drop Barbecue tears Uber and Lyft and all these other folks new assholes on a daily basis, because that's the job, right? Those are the cloud capitalists. Cloud capitalists. I'm using a word for you here. Cloud capitalists. That's Amazon. That's Uber. That's DoorDash. That's Spotify. That's Google. So what these guys did, this is techno-feudalism. So just feudalism was when all the lords and kings and everything, they split up all our world. And then any land that we, the proletariat, landed on and sat our butt on, they go like, okay, great. Welcome to our land. We're going to tax you and we're going to screw your wife. Okay, so we're going to tax you and screw your wife. Well, okay, that's a lot to take. I don't really want you to both tax me and screw my wife. I don't want you to torture my kids and my family and make my family go to war. That's right. That's right. Our friend Chow Shows is in here. Good to see you, Chow Shows, my dear friend. A small few have the riches, 90% have nothing, and it should be the other way around. Right. And what do we know, Chow Shows? We know that they didn't get that through merit or through working hard or even through being born rich, which all of them were. That's not how they got it. They got it by robbing us blind, because they're thieves and con artists and organized criminals. That's the fucking problem. The problem isn't that we're losers because we suck. The problem is that we're losers because we're in a rigged game. That's the fucking problem, right? It's not you. That's where Dr. Ramani Durvasula, that's where all of my work this year on narcissistic empire abuse and Dr. Ramani Durvasula come into play. Is because you got to know, like Chow Shows does, and like Brian does, and like I do, and like Truth Wars TV and Sinful Toaster and our friend 76 Red Pills and all the people in this community who have awakened. You got to know that this game's going to fucking kill you. It's a rigged game. And unless we just all want to be doing GoFundMes to bury each other's moms and keep us housed, I don't think we can do that. I don't think we can raise money from each other when none of us got any money, can we? Right? This is the path. This is the path to hell. App slavery is the path to hell. Okay, and here's the problem. So my friend Jeff of Mike Drop Barbecue and many other people have shared the work. Glitch Dash has shared it. I've shared it. Everybody shared it. The work of a channel called More Perfect Union. I'll put it up there. Okay, it's called More Perfect Union. So More Perfect Union. So I'll tell you a little story here. When I was in jail, and I did 20 days in solitary confinement by choice, because I was going to prove two things. I was going to prove, number one, that if they wanted to unfairly prosecute me when I was doing public service to humanity, I was going to fucking make them do it and make them pay the price of putting me in jail. Number two, I wanted to go where nobody goes and learn what nobody gets to learn by doing it myself. And so as a relatively tough guy, or at least a Timex who can take a licking and keep on ticking, I played their game. I went to jail, I got handcuffed, I got beat up and tortured and all the fun stuff that gets to happen to you when you put your body on the line. Well, why'd I do that? Because I needed to learn for myself. And one of the things I read in jail was a book by a very brilliant black man named Manning Marable, M-A-N-N-I-N-G, Marable, M-A-R-A-B-L-E. And he wrote a book called How Capitalism Underdeveloped Black America. Okay. And that book was based upon another famous book called How Capitalism Underdeveloped Africa. What do Africa and Black America and you have and me have in common? Well, we're all the people that they want to keep down. We're all the people that the organized criminals and racists and crackpot realist government ghouls want to keep down because they want to keep all the wealth for themselves. They want the rigged game where you lose and they win every day until forever and always. So what our friend Manning Marable, I'm gonna put that in chat here. So it's called Manning Marable, How Capitalism Underdeveloped Black America. Well, so he says some pretty inflammatory things in there because he was a brilliant guy and he wasn't waiting for other people to tell him what the truth was. He was discovering it for himself. And he pointed out that Black ministers and Black political leaders and Black union leaders and Black academics and Black everybody else who rose to the top, his people, well, guess what they were when they rose to the top? They were captured. They became part of the machine that they were allegedly underlings in. And so what did they get to do? They got to go live in the big house, or maybe they got wealthy. Maybe they became semi-oligarchs. Doesn't matter. What they did was they kind of sold out. Not because they were necessarily evil people, but that's what happens, right? That's why the oligarchs and kings and everybody take us into their court, because that's how they control us. And so when you have a great Black leader, let's say a Black minister or a Black union leader or whatever else, or any other union leader, a white union leader, or a union leader that looks like me, what happens? They get sucked into those things. They realize they're part of the machine. And unions were one of the great examples he gave, along with churches and governments and other things. Well, they're rife with organized crime. So unions do exist, but who gets rich in unions? The people at the top, right? Our unions have always been filled with mobsters and organized criminals. Always, always, always. Okay, so when we have a channel called More Perfect Union, and what we're selling as the antidote to Appslavery is unionism, that's a logical fallacy, okay? Because this is the paradox that I went through the other day. This is Gresham's law. Gresham's law tells us that there's no good money in a bad market. You don't have good money in a market of total corruption and fraud. And that's the problem with unions. Unions are trying to operate in an empire that is organized crime and fraud. And so when a union gets in and tries to operate in a empire that is filled with fraud, what happens? Well, it gets infiltrated. Its leaders get paid off. Its leaders get wealthy and disconnected. And so who do we have working unions today? Where is union growth? With Amazon workers? With Starbucks workers? With security guards like Brian? Brian's paying union dues for a job that doesn't even pay enough to keep him housed. So what is a union doing if a union is trying to get you to take a job that won't even keep you housed, much less fed, much less taking care of your mom or your cat or your dog or yourself? Well, they're just selling you down the river. And so I'm going to make the argument to my friend Jeff at Mike Drop Barbecue and everyone else that when you see propaganda from an empire that's telling you that unions might be a solution for gig workers, for app slaves, or unions might be a solution for laborers, I'm telling you that game's already fucking been lost. That game is over and as lost as the global gig economy. It's over. You cannot win the union game. A union of slaves is a union of slaves. We are wage slaves. We are app slaves. We are slaves to an empire. If you think that you are free and in capitalism, you are delusional. You are living in an illusion which was created for you methodically by decades and decades and decades and decades and decades of propaganda on American exceptionalism and American capitalism and American dollar hegemony and a empire which is moralist and moral and virtuous and good. None of those things are true. This empire runs on a philosophy called crackpot realism, in which you're the cannon fodder and they're the kings and queens and oligarchs. That's what it runs on. If you don't want to be cannon fodder anymore, you have to tell them and make them stop. And how do you do that? You do that with individual collective action. You do that by awakening to their illusion. So I'm going to jump over here to something that so this is a year ago. This is July 29th of 2023. Similar to today, I didn't really have the energy or focus or anything else to come on and tell you what the beginning of the end of DoorDash means. And when I did this broadcast, I kind of thought it wasn't very good. I felt disorganized and off and everything else. Well, what does that mean? That means that my perceptions are often very faulty as well. Isn't that a good lesson for all of us? Our perceptions are not reality. Our thoughts are not reality. Reality is in the present moment. And in the present moment, I told you the truth, so it mattered. In the present moment right now, I'm telling you the truth, so it matters. Let's watch just a second or two of what we did last year. And let's see, the quote below this says, "Can't agree with you more." It's from somebody called Jake at State Farm. That's an account that used to log in quite a bit. "I have always been fascinated by gig work, the psychology behind it, and how it is a microcosm for corporate greed and capitalism at its worst." Well, what a great quote from Jake at State Farm. Jake couldn't have been more correct. Could they have? They could not have been more correct. And I've been saying the same thing. The global gig economy, cabal, and corporate fraud is the end of all fair labor, not the end of fair low wage labor. This is the end of corporate fascism and the end of fair employment. This is the end of corporate fascists providing fair employment. This is the end of employment altogether. And if you don't recognize that, you're not recognizing that AI and gig work and all of these things, right? Now, gig work goes way, way, way outside of apps. It always has. But now they're trying to use the principles of apps, of separating what can't be separated, of separating the humans from the tasks that they do so they can just use little teeny parts of us, right? You can't separate all of this out. You can't separate my human body from taking care of my mom and my cat and taking care of myself. You can't just use little parts of me and let the rest of it die, unless you're a monster. Well, they're monsters. They're monsters. So let's watch a little bit here. Here. Now, when you tell desperate people there's opportunity and they take it and they lose, that's on you. When you sell yourself as Mr. Positivity, as somebody, the can-do attitude, and you're cheating the system to get your status and telling everybody else on your ride-alongs what your status is, wow, that's it's really disgusting on so many levels. So let's listen to a little bit more of this. I'm going to pull this up on the computer this time because I want you to hear how nefarious this is. And these guys know they're doing wrong, right? So there's multiple different people involved in this scam. So let's pull this up here. Gonna share screen. Share the screen. What's this guy called? So this is from a channel called Cherry.
I went out of the way and I told you something so you could benefit off of it, and not in the way that you're doing it right now, because you're not benefiting off of it. You're basically ruining it for everybody. Because now you just got to wait for a patch for them to fucking do it.
Okay, so you see what they're saying is they're saying you're ruining this backdoor scam for everybody because they consider this a glitch for the back door so that DoorDash can do this. Now, that is certainly an explanation for it. What's a more likely explanation? The more likely explanation, and the explanation that I would assume to be true, because DoorDash does not sleep on the job. And I don't believe that glitches go into production. DoorDash made this backdoor for its gig content creators. It gave it to however it was developed. It was leaked out to different content creators like Mr. Flex, who you see right here. I don't know who this guy is. I don't know who that guy is. Don't care. It was leaked out to Pedro DoorDash Santiago.
I'm told that Sin City Deliveries, that's out of Las Vegas, had a Discord channel where it was charging people money for this information. So this is really nefarious stuff, but that doesn't mean it's not in DoorDash's interest. It's in DoorDash's interest to have gig tubers misrepresent the opportunities to the public so that DoorDash can get more rubes to lose money. They're happy if Mr. Flex says he makes money. They're happy if Pedro says he makes money. They're happy if Sin City Deliveries says they make money and sells opportunity to other people. They're fine with all of that. Why wouldn't they be? They're making more money. They're making more money, more money, more money. But somebody's losing, and that somebody is always, always the labor. Let's listen to more of this disgusting conversation.
Okay, Flex, but and this is where we can't have this conversation. I understand you think that you told me, but I knew way before. And I'm not going to tell you, oh, this person can tell you and that person can tell you, because that starts.
So what they're arguing is who knew. So when something secret like this gets out, now it's like, well, who spilled the beans? Well, if I heard it from you and you spilled the beans, then they'll know it came from you. Well, so a whole bunch of different people knew this, and nobody knows quite who knew it first. But again, is this a glitch, or does this serve the purposes of DoorDash? You have to assume that at DoorDash, who runs a computer AI system that can make over 2 million predictions a second about what you're going to do next, doesn't have backdoor glitches for Mr. Flex, Pedro, and Sin City Deliveries and others like them that are unknown to the company, that only work on Android phones. This is not a likely scenario. The likely scenario is DoorDash made this backdoor specifically for this purpose, so that their lies about the amount of money and the amount of opportunity they provide will be perpetuated by app slaves themselves. And
well, there you go. It's in the show notes, and that's a look at a year ago, July 29th, 2023, just slightly over a year ago, because today is September 15th, 2024. That's a look back at the beginning of the end of DoorDash. This is the end of DoorDash. And I'm a pretty good guesser, pretty good deducer of evidence. All of those things that I told you I surmised were correct. And we went through kind of hand-to-hand combat in the global gig economy, corporate cabal and fraud, and in the gig economy, because this was a big deal for everybody to see proof that this is just a silly rigged game with a whole bunch of cheaters using backdoors and lies to misrepresent the opportunity to you. Why do they want to misrepresent the opportunity to rubes like you and me and everybody else? Well, because then we're the suckers and they get rich. It's all a Ponzi scheme. You got to get in early on a Ponzi scheme to make the money. And if you get in early on the Ponzi scheme and you get some of that new money, well, that's great. But Ponzi schemes run out because the problem with Ponzi schemes is there's not enough people on planet Earth to keep them going forever. They end for that reason, because there's just not that many people on planet Earth to keep feeding greedy people forever who do nothing. And that's what we've got here in our world, is a whole bunch of greedy people that do nothing, that are taking all of our work, all of our labor, all of this physical world, and they're breaking it up into pieces for their own purposes. They can live that way because they're not in our present moment. We cannot live that way because we are in our present moment, and we can't be fractionalized into separate parts. We're a whole human being, each of us, who has to awaken and live in each of our present moment. And so if we don't do that, then what we usually do is we spend most of our time in depression and cognitive dissonance and pain and grief and confusion, which is miserable, which is the world we live in today. It's a miserable world that we live in today, because that is how they are creating this this hellscape that we're in. It's designed to trap us mentally, most importantly, and physically, within techno-feudalism, within predatory capitalism, within corporate fascism, as tools, as nothing but tools. And that's why your basic needs to bury your mom Your basic needs to keep a car running, your basic needs to stay housed and eat without government assistance have been taken from you. And when I say taken from you, I mean stolen. I don't mean that you're not good enough to get them or you're not worthy of having them. I mean, they were stolen from you. You're a victim of crime, of organized crime, of the organized crime of a kakistocracy, a government and ruling class of the worst humans in the history of the world. And their names aren't Donald Trump or Kamala Harris either. They're not partisan political tools and performers of the United States. They're Peter Thiel and Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos and all of the other BlackRock, all of the monstrous techno-feudalists who are planning to use the model of Appslavery, the model of the global gig economy and corporate cabal, to turn humanity into a living hellscape of sewer surveillance and manipulation for their benefit. And that's happening so very fast right now with AI and other types of corporate fraud. And remember, AI is just software created by humans. AI, what people call artificial intelligence, is designed to create monopolies and control for techno-feudalists. That's what they're investing on. There could be other forms of AI. There could be other forms of AI that would enhance our humanity and enhance our human condition. Those could be invented. Those are not what people are investing billions and trillions of dollars in. What they're investing billions and trillions of dollars in are systems that will enslave you to the point of your genocide. There is no doubt about this. I wasn't wrong a year ago, July 29th of 2023, and I'm not wrong today. This is the end. You cannot go any further. We're raising money for our friend named Chris, whose mother died and whose car is wrecked and who no longer has a driver's license and doesn't have a job. And good fucking luck looking for a job right now. I promised to try and swear less and I just failed, but good luck looking for a job right now. The highest percentage of growth in homeless people in Oregon is people 55 and over. Who does that sound like? Sounds like me. I'm 56. Sounds like my friend Brian. He's 56, turning 57. Sounds like Patrick Lovell. He's 55, turning 56. Sounds like all of us, right? We are no longer useful to the empire. They have our data. They have everything they wanted from us during our productive years of being strong bucks in the field, doing what they wanted to do and following all their orders. But here's the problem. All this techno-feudalist game, all this cloud capital, all of this, it's all about consolidation. It's coming to a peak. That's what Bitcoin is. That's what our burgeoning World War III is. That's what our economic collapse is. That's what Patrick Lovell's the con, the fraud behind our homelessness and poverty, which is the $71 trillion of fraud that Patrick Lovell and I told you about over the last 2 weeks. All of that's coming together to make this moment your moment to save yourself. Your moment of individual collective action where you realize that you can no longer play this rigged game. These companies, corporations, usurp money, time, and they launder our labor on a daily basis. That's right. That's right. This is labor laundering. This is money laundering. This is what all types of organized crime involve. And Patrick Lovell talked about this. I've shown the clip before from my favorite film, Rancho Deluxe. All high-level organized crime is an inside job. You are the victims of high-level organized crime, the highest level organized crime, your very own government, your very own leaders, your very own Fed, your very own people that print your currency called the US dollar. Those are the people, the same people that are printing the currency called the US dollar that you're supposed to survive with as your medium of exchange. Well, they're not just printing it, they're also hoarding it and keeping it away from you. That's unsurvivable, my friends. That's unsurvivable. So this is going to be a record for me of keeping this short and sweet, because I hope that I've given you enough evidence this morning to pay attention. And you're going to see some fun stuff next week. Brian in the chat here, Brian C of DoorDash Sucks and I are collaborating on a project to bring this information to you. We're collaborating very hard. We were very inspired and have been very inspired and are right now very inspired by what we learned about the con the last 2 weeks and all of that fraud. That just adds evidence. It just adds to this shaft of the spear that is flying. But what's the tip of the spear? You're the tip of the spear. You're the tip of the spear. The con and Appslavery and full dash closure and all this evidence that we have, all the work that Brian's done to prove to you the fraud and what the World Economic Forum is saying out loud about what they want to do to you. They want to starve you out and make you desperate so they can manipulate you until the end of time, or at least till the end of your time, till you die soon. Very unhealthy and miserably, you die soon on their schedule, probably by 2030, probably well before. The reason they're doing this is that it is their plan of record and they're saying it out loud. Now, we're telling you all of these things, and we're also giving you a path to show you that you individually and collectively, through individual collective action in your present moment, can do something about it. That's what we're trying to do. So Brian and I are going to come back and talk to you, I think, on Thursday. I believe Brian may do his first ever live from DoorDash Sucks and Gig Apps Exposed. He may do his first ever live broadcast to talk about this, and I think I probably will go on there with him. So big stuff. Why is it big? Why is it big? Not because there's anything new, but because you continue to awaken to this present moment, because you can see with your very eyes that what Chris up here, who lost his mom and is going through all that grief and now has lost his car and his ability to drive and function, and he has no job and way to support himself, that grief is what's heading for you. That's the train that is coming around the corner at you. And they say that death comes on a pale horse. That's that old biblical saying, and Johnny Cash said it in a song. And they say she comes on a pale horse, but I am sure I hear a train. This is the train. I'm telling you, this is a train right here. You see it? It's coming around that corner at you. And you better see it. You better know it's not what you expect. It's where you are. It's not what you expect. It's where you are right now. And only in this present moment can you accept where you are. And only when you accept it and awaken to it can you do something about it. See why you're the key? See why your awakening is the key? All right, then. This is Sunday, September 15th. It's 10:56 a.m. in the morning here in Pacific Daylight Time. It's 1:56 p.m. on the East Coast in Eastern Daylight Time. This is yet another edition of the Full Dash Closure audiobook and podcast. And we will see you, Brian C. of DoorDash Sucks, and I will see you next week, and we're going to talk about what the next steps are. Share this with your friends. Most importantly, share it with yourself. Think about it. Look in the mirror. Decide whether you are or are not the problem. Decide whether you have solutions, or whether you know where you're going, or whether you're just waiting in the chute to be slaughtered like all the other cows. I don't want to wait in the chute to be slaughtered with the other cows. Thank you all for tuning in, and I will see you soon. Have a wonderful Sunday. And go Ducks, eh? Go Ducks.